All right. So we're here again for the sixth time trying to record this one video. The video is titled A Study into Gangstalking, a deeper look at what is happening and how it is meant to affect its victims by yours truly, Brian. Before I get into the actual video, I want to give you a disclaimer. This is my very first video. I've tried over 6 times to get the audio right. I finally got it, but please bear with me if I'm stumbling over words, if I'm rushing through my sentences. It's all new to me, and I'm very tired of speaking so much at this point. Although I still love to make videos. Don't get me wrong. Okay, so we're going to continue and begin the presentation. The purpose of this video and any other video I make is to study and gather information into something that has been affecting my life for the past 2 years, to relieve some of the stress and fear associated with this protocol, to help other victims deprogram themselves, to develop a list of things we know are true about it and separate them from things we know are theories. Simply, I like making videos. Okay? When I say to relieve some of the stress and fear associated with this protocol, I'm not speaking about myself directly. I noticed that from watching a lot of your videos on YouTube, reading some of your blogs and books that I've read about this type of thing, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety built up and a lot of fear, especially in the beginning. And I've overcame that to the point where none of what they do actually changes my emotional state or my mental state, and no anxiety is really built up inside of me, or any adrenaline is built up when they do these things anymore. So I want to share some of my thoughts on that and use this study because it was studying that helped me get over it. So this study is to help other people get over it. Okay. And when I say to help victims deprogram themselves, I mean to be detached from the things they do so that we're not internalizing it and it's not causing us to have certain behaviors that we didn't have before, or we're not sensitized to the things that they try to get us to be sensitized to. Okay. What this video is not to condemn or blame any specific organization. I don't know what's happening, to be honest. I'm trying to piece things together and analyze them, so I can't say it's this, it's that group, it's the CIA, FBI, anything like that. It's not to judge anyone for their mistakes. I have a forgiveful heart. I have to forgive those, even if they commit the most horrendous acts. And stealing someone's privacy is a very horrendous, evil act. Yet forgiveness is in my heart. But we're still going to figure this out if it's something we have to live through for multiple years. Okay. It's not to be about me specifically. This isn't an ego trip. This isn't just to hear myself speak. This is mostly because a friend of mine suggested that I make these videos, and I fell in love with the act of making videos. And I see how useful studying things are to help. So this is more so for that purpose than to share my experience or complain about anything. Not to confuse anyone listening with outrageous theories. We're not trying to go left field with some of the more outrageous theories that are out there. Um, Even though, some of them may be plausible. However, we're going to stick with what we can see, feel, and touch. And the thing is that have, real life effect on our lives. Not to make me seem like an expert in any way. Again, I'm not speaking from an expert's point of view. I'm not, ex-military or anything like that. I don't know I didn't know about any of this in a way. I knew some of the conspiracy theories out there, the MK Ultras, the stuff like that, but we're staying away from that. I didn't know that they invaded civilians' lives to this extent until recently, and I just didn't know. I knew the world was evil, but you really don't know, and kind of until it happens to you, man. This world is evil, plain and simple. But I'm not an expert. I'm just trying to figure it out like everyone else. Not to make anyone paranoid or afraid. Again, we're trying to help alleviate some of that anxiety and stress that's built up from being constantly monitored, constantly harassed by all types of people, and we're trying to get rid of that. Not to prove that gang stalking exists. I'm not trying to um, plead my case to anyone to get the average person to believe me or to cry about what's happening to me. I don't need anyone's approval. We know what is happening. If you're someone who has lived through this protocol, you know exactly what is happening to you. And we're not trying to, spread the word, so to speak. We're just trying to figure this out because this may be something we have to live through until we can figure out how to beat it. Not to force my beliefs on anyone. I'm not trying to force my beliefs on you. I am a spiritual person. A lot of what I say may come from a spiritual thought process. However, I understand people aren't that way. So if you're not someone who thinks like that, please just bear with me. You can agree to disagree, and we can still respect each other and move on. What is it? Okay. Gang stalking is an organized crime that places its victims under 24-hour surveillance in order to gather information and create a profile that may possibly be used to neutralize its victims or control the life of its victims. It can be likened to other tactics used by intelligence agencies, private security, law enforcement, and military. It's an advanced form of psychological warfare used on civilians. It is illegal. I put advanced maybe in parentheses because a lot of the things that they do are childish and silly. So we have to question how advanced really is it. Okay, for the sixth time, my experience with gang stalking. I believe that my privacy was invaded and stolen from me prior to 2016. However, it wasn't until then that I had something happen to me that really made me question things. And I started doing more research about these types of things in 2016. And I found a lot of people who have gone through this, and it fit exactly into this umbrella term known as gang stalking. Okay, I don't like to use those terms. I'm using it for the sake of notoriety, meaning this is something that once you're here, if you're in this protocol, you know exactly what I'm talking about. However, I believe those terms are disinformation being spread throughout the internet. Okay, so 2016. At this point in time, I was a school bus driver. I was a musician. I'm still a musician, and I am a father. I was on a spiritual path. At that point in time, I could say I was way more um, I was way different than I am now, meaning I was more disciplined at this time. I was studying Afrocentric studies. It was a big part of who I was at that time. And I am an African American, so I was learning spirituality, I was learning history and all this stuff. And I was in love with a beautiful woman. I was happy and hopeful. Then, around September of 2016, I noticed something strange. This is just a brief um, run through of once I started to realize it. It's not everything that was done to me. They still do a lot of things uh, to try to agitate me. However, this is how I started to realize it. Okay, so it's not all information. It's just just bullet points. Okay, around September 2016, literally, it's like I woke up one day and weird things were happening pretty much every day after that. Okay, first weird thing, one of the first weird things that I noticed was that crushed glass was placed on my route to work. I used to take a specific route to work every day, and on that route, there was several stop signs that I would have to stop at, and I noticed that every single one of those stop signs had crushed glass strategically placed on the road. And it was mid-September, so it wasn't road salt. And the way that it was placed, it was obvious that someone has placed it there very strategically, okay? One day around this time when I got to work, there was a purple ribbon placed on my school bus. It was tied around the antenna on the front of the bus, very noticeable. I get to the compound, I notice this ribbon. I look around, no other buses in the compound has this ribbon tied around, and there's at least 50 to 75 buses at this compound, okay? And I was given some bull crap story about they were supporting some cancer or something like that, uh, but no other buses had it on there. So that same day, I noticed that there was a police officer following my bus. He was meeting up with me at every stop. He was driving by when I was making stops and stuff like that, or he would be parked across the street adjacent to the bus. And it was odd to me. And towards the end of the day, it just clicked like, okay, this guy is following me everywhere I go. Then I noticed shortly after that the police were following me in my personal life, in my personal vehicles, when I would be with family and friends, such and such, and they still do to an extent. Um, I have footage of that, and I've done some pretty crazy things in regards to that. However, around 2016 is when I started to notice these things. Shortly after that, I started to notice that they switched vehicles to white vans. I noticed a very heavy police presence at first following me in my personal vehicle, my personal life. Then sometime after that, it was mostly white vans. And if you have lived through this protocol, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that I've read in books and heard their testimonies online and stuff, and they've had similar experiences with white vans being placed strategically around their proximity and following them on their day-to-day business. Okay, shortly after that, I quit working for the school system and I got a better job at Pepsi. It had nothing to do with what was happening, it was just a better opportunity. And before I decided to, well, I had some time in between working at JCPS and when I started Pepsi. I had about 2, 3 weeks of uh, downtime, and I went and decided to stay with my sister and my brother-in-law up in Indianapolis to visit. And they live about 2.5 hours away. And I was a musician. That's like my quiet place to go and to write songs and make music and stuff like that. And on the day that I decided to leave, there was at least 12 vehicles I noticed trying to swerve into my SUV, trying to make me have some sort of accident or to cause me to make a mistake while driving. I was running errands prior to hitting the road, and the whole time I was running errands, I was getting these people swerving into me. It was police vehicles. It was, the people that follow you in their regular cars and whatnot. And it was a very scary experience that day. And it was raining also, but we made it. They can't stop me. Okay, continue. It continued in Indiana. I came home to start the job at Pepsi about the end of January. No, I started Pepsi December 19th. And when I came home, it just started. It continued. Fake events surrounding my targeting happen all the time. They still happen. It'd be like, they call them false flags or something like that. But you'll see like areas taped off with police tape. A lot of police presence or some fake accident happen or crap like that everywhere I go. If I plan to go somewhere, usually there's some type of event happening around that place where they have the police tape, they have ambulances, fire trucks, yada yada yada. And it's been happening for 2 years and it still happens to this day. So I came back around December 17th, 18th. I started Pepsi on the 19th. Worked at Pepsi for a few months, and around February 2017, I started to have some sense of depression and suicidal thoughts. And you may ask why. Well, it's because it was all new to me. I never heard of anything like this or experienced anything like this. So to have this happen to me for no reason, I was depressed. I felt I should be in different places at that point in my life. I'm still in my 20s, but I felt, I should have accomplished more. I shouldn't be going through things like this. People shouldn't be invading my privacy. This is not how life was supposed to be. And I thought if they were trying to kill me, I might as well do it myself, which is a horrible way to think. In any circumstance, it's just not the way you should think. You should always rise above any challenge that you're met with. You are stronger than you think you are. Believe me, okay? I ended up switching jobs again. And I started working for a temp agency. I would drive the van, I would drive the temp employees to their destination, and I would pick them up after their workday and take them back to the temp agency so they can get paid and yada yada yada. Okay, I ended up losing the love, and I have a lot of stories about that. A lot of crazy targeting experiences happened when I was driving for that temp agency because they had access to me because anyone could walk in there and get a job. So pretty much they had a lot of people trying to get close to me, trying to get information, um, using the directed conversation and all the terms that we spread around the internet now and stuff like that. Okay, I ended up losing the love that I had, the woman, and we never really been right since. Noticing construction on all my routes. What I mean by that is, like I said, a lot of the fake events are false flags, quote unquote. You would I would notice that on my route to work in the morning, they would the next day they would set up some type of construction. They still do this even at the job I work now. If you go at the route I take, it's full of construction throughout that whole route. And yeah, it's just something. I don't. A lot of people's profiting. That's what I see. I see a lot of people profiting off my privacy being stolen. Okay, cigarette, street theater, and noise harassment. I'm gonna make a whole video on all this stuff. I'm gonna make a whole video pretty much on most of these bullet points, I guess. Depression, losing love because I lost the love due to them, due to me not understanding that I was stronger than anything that was happening in my life, and the depression I felt caused me to make some terrible decisions surrounding my love life. Okay, cigarettes, street theater, noise harassment. I'm gonna make a video on that too because that's the childish shit that I be talking about. But it's all right. It's still continuing to this day. It still continues. Okay. So part two: studying gang stalking. Question: truths and theories. Closing thoughts. This video is just an introduction. It's just some basic questions that I thought about while I was making this presentation, and we're not trying to give you definitive answers. This is exactly what it is and nothing else. We're just asking questions and coming up with ideas and what we can make of it. Okay. Studying gang stalking. Why study it? How to study it? What types of studies are we going to do? You should study. This is a warfare tactic being used against you, regardless of how it's made, or regardless of how it's made to look, or the way they present it. If you read up on some of warfare tactics, there's books you can buy on the military, yada yada yada. This is actually a warfare tactic, and it's been used for decades. So in war, gathering and collecting information is very important. It's one of the main keys to victory, okay? It is the main key to victory, having information on your enemy. And if someone has declared war on you by invading your privacy, invading your personal space, stealing information from you, the best thing we can do to counter that is to gather as much information as we can, okay? How to study it? We're going to use the scientific method in a way. We're going to analyze it. We're going to ask questions, develop hypotheses, and study those, experiment with those, and we're going to see what we can do and what kind of conclusions can we draw from thinking about it in a certain type of way. Questions, anyone? This is just a list of questions that I had while I was typing this, and we're going to expound on this in other videos and other types of memes so we can think about it in more detail. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to run through these questions, okay? Why commit this act? How long does a protocol like this last? What tactics are used to affect the victim? Are there any examples of this that are publicly known? What exactly is happening to us? How can one overcome something of this nature? Is is it warfare being waged on the public? Okay, so why commit this act? I've separated the truths from theories. A truth in this regard being something that we can see, smell, and touch, something that we know is definitely true based off what it is that they do. You know, something that has to be a reason for them to continue to do this evil act towards you. And a theory being something that we can only speculate on, we can only guess, something that we don't know is definitely a reason why they do it. It's just something that we are, trying to figure out. Maybe this is a reason, maybe it's not. So, truths to infiltrate the victim's life. Obviously, anytime someone invades your space, invades your privacy, tries to get people close to you, etc., they're trying to infiltrate your life for whatever reason. To gather information, obviously, we can say that that's a definite truth because they're surveilling you, they're monitoring you, they have people around you, there's a presence around you at all times. Your stuff is hacked, your devices are hacked, and you're being listened to. So it's obvious that they're gathering information on you to create a profile to be used against the victim. Obviously, they're gathering your information. They infiltrated your life, and then they're using it back on you. They're coming to you with the things that you said, in slight conversations, indirectly aimed towards you and stuff like that. They're wearing clothes that you wear. They're doing all these types of things to mimic you. They're letting you know that they're listening to your conversations. They're letting you know that they're monitoring you visually. So that's a definite truth that they're using whatever profile of information they've created against you to cause some negative effect in the victim. That's obvious. The things that they do are very disrespectful at times. The things that they do is obviously meant to agitate you. So that's a negative. It's negative, and it's meant to cause a negative effect, a negative response. They want to have you uh, under some form of stress with elevated anxiety levels, a lot of adrenaline running through your body and whatnot. Excuse me, I need to take a sip of water. To monitor the victim. It's obvious. These are obvious things. That's why they're definite truths. They're definitely monitoring you. They may give you the impression that they have more access to you than they really do, but they're definitely monitoring you. They have a presence around you at all times. There's the white vans, there's people following you everywhere you go. They know, your GPS location most of the time and stuff like that. So they're definitely committing this act to monitor you, to have an effect on the victim psychology. And I should have put negative effect on the victim psychology. But it's an obvious truth to me because of the mind games that they play. Like I said, they may try to make it appear like they're watching you when maybe someone's not even there watching you, or they may place a van outside of your house to give you the impression that you're being monitored when actually that van isn't monitoring you, or that car parked in front of your house isn't monitoring you. It's all to keep you paranoid to an extent. Or they may try to make it seem like they have more access to your personal information than they actually do. And I know this to be a truth because I've tested a lot of these theories. I've tested, I constantly reconfirm that someone is invading my space, maybe on a weekly basis, but I do it often to reconfirm. But I have a number of tests and experiments that I can do to make sure that they're still surveilling me. Okay. Now let's go to theories. I may not speak on all of these, but I'll try to run through them as fast as I can. To kill the victim slowly. I've seen a lot of people on YouTube say that this is one of their goals. I can't say that's definitely true in my case, but I see a lot of people who are tortured, a lot of people who have physical uh, torture, physical bruises and stuff like that, a lot of pain that they're going through. So yes, that could be a theory, and to be honest, it could also be a truth, but I just left it as a theory. Why commit this act? To use mind control on the victim. That could be a definite truth too, but I left it as a theory because at this point we don't know why they're doing some of the things that they do. In my case, it's not affecting me the way that it's affecting a lot of people that I read about, yet they still continue to do it. Like with the red and white colors and stuff like that, they still continue to do these things, although I'm not sensitized to it. I'm not thinking about this protocol all day, every day. So that's why I left it as a theory. Why commit this act? To set the victim up for criminal arrest. This is a theory to me because I've had experiences where they've tried to associate me a lot with all types of criminal activity. A lot of people have gotten my vehicle at work and something and made direct conversations to criminal activity, trying to insinuate that they knew that I was a part of some type of criminal activity and stuff like that. Although I'm not, but it seems that they were trying to keep me associated, and they were spreading information about me being associated with some sort of criminal activity. But to me, that's still a theory. To destroy the victim's livelihood, that could be a truth too, because if someone's doing negative acts against you, they're exhibiting negative behavior towards you, then why else would they do that unless they're trying to destroy your livelihood? And a lot of people that I've read about have gone homeless, or they've lost jobs, they've lost friends and family and stuff due to this protocol, this warfare tactic. We're going to be honest about what it is. It's a warfare tactic being used, and it could be a truth to destroy the victim's livelihood. However, in my experiences, that hasn't been the case as of yet, so I left it as a theory. Because the victim is being investigated, that's a theory as to why they're committing this act. They could be trying to get information on you because you're under some sort of investigation, although I highly doubt that. I believe that a lot of times when you have some sort of theory about it, they try to make the things that they do fit that theory to keep you distracted, to keep you misguided. Deception is another huge part of warfare, and we got to treat this like it's a warfare tactic being used against you. So we're going to think in means of warfare, okay? So if you don't want someone close to the source of what's happening, you use a lot of disinformation, you use a lot of deception to keep them thrown off course so they can't pinpoint the location of the actual origin of the operation. So it may seem like you're being investigated, but I guarantee you, you're probably not being investigated in the traditional sense, okay? You're on a list of possible terrorists. This is actually a plausible um, thing, but like I said, you're not actually being investigated. You're lightweight being agitated to the point of destruction, so to speak. So maybe you are, maybe we are on some sort of list, but I highly doubt they would go about finding the people on that list in this negative manner. Although there are 3-year-olds on this list, so good job, America. Um, it's something good. Excuse me. This is a theory, although all the crap that they've done to me has not been good. So we're just going to leave that as a theory. It's experimentation, and this actually to me is the most plausible theory because of the history of America, man. If you go back and you look at a lot of the things that the FBI has done, the CIA has done, the government itself, they experiment on common people a lot without their consent, and they still do. They experiment with vaccines, they experiment with technology and stuff like that. So yeah, that's very plausible. But like I said, at this point, we don't know. We're just trying to think about it in as many ways as we can. And this isn't all the truths, and this isn't all the theories. This is just an introduction video to keep the conversation and get it going and get it started and whatnot. Okay, next slide. How long does something like this last? Man, for me, it's been 2 years, and 2 years is way too long already. But excuse me, I've read books about people who have experienced this for about 10 years. I was listening to a radio show of a guy who I believe is deceased now, who said he's been going through it for 10 years. He had people on there who said they've been going through it since the 80s, about 20 years, 20 plus years. Okay, so it's a very long time. I'm still in my 20s, so 20 years, that's most of my life. So I don't know how long it could last, but it doesn't seem like they stop. Even if it's not affecting you, it doesn't seem like they stop. So I'm preparing myself to endure this for as long as it lasts. So I'm going to constantly be studying it. I'm going to constantly be thinking about it, not in the forefront of my life. I'm not going to be consumed by something like this because it's evil. I'm not concerned with evil in that way. However, if they're going to try to infiltrate my life and make a presence here for a longer period of time, then you better be damn sure then I'm going to build up my defenses and I'm going to have my plans uh, made to where we can endure this for as long as these people think they're going to try to fuck with me. Okay, so next slide. Excuse my language. Next slide. Let's slide. Next slide. What tactics do they use to infiltrate and affect the victim's life? Well, they make you aware. And I put that as a tactic because it seems like a strategic plan the way they make you aware. It's like they have to make you aware at some point. Like I told you at the beginning of this presentation, I feel like I've been a victim of privacy invasion way before I was ever aware of it. Yet they decided to make you aware. So that tactic had to have had some sort of purpose attached to it, okay? Intelligence gathering. They're gathering intelligence constantly. It's a warfare tactic. And most warfare tactics like this are used, especially covert warfare tactics, are used to gather intelligence. We can look at everybody around you who is placed before you in your life as a spy of some sort to gather information on you, whether they're trying to gauge your response to a certain behavior, are they trying to see where you go on a day-to-day basis, or someone is parked outside of your house trying to see who's coming and who's going at a certain time and stuff like that. That's all intelligence gathering. Monitoring. It's obvious that they're monitoring you, so we put that as a tactic. We don't really have to even explain that. Agitation. They're constantly trying to agitate you. Especially in my experience, everywhere I go, they'll try to have someone smoking cigarettes or some stupid shit like that to agitate me for some reason. I don't know. It sounds very silly, but believe me, I've been dealing with this for 2 years, and I've just noticed, and some experiences I've heard about other people, they do other things to agitate them. You can go on YouTube and you can see people completely flipping out at these people and arguing with them on the street and all this crap is crap. I don't do any of that. I'm not agitated by anything that they do because I know that they're going to do it. And once I learned that they were going to do these things, I've already built up my defenses and my mental strength in order to deal with it. And I've already had throughout my whole life a high tolerance level, and I had a lot of patience to begin with. So really the things that they do, I'm immune to, but sometimes I find in a sense of it's funny to me sometimes is what I'm trying to say. So conditioning, mimicking, provoking, slandering, setups, negative actions, stealing privacy and private information. It's all a form of harassment, and we can place that whole list to the right of us to under agitation. And this isn't, and by no means is this all the tactics that they use. It's just for the sake of this introduction, to get you to think about some of the things. Are there any examples of this that are publicly known? Publicly known. Heck yeah. There is there's a YouTube video that I watched where it had like 30 minutes of just news footage. People who have brought this to the attention of their local news stations, and it's in books. It's just blogs dedicated solely to this. This is something that's publicly known. However, this is why I say I don't use these terms like gang stalking and targeted individual and all these umbrella terms that make you fall into a certain genre, a niche, so to speak, to placing you in a box, sort of like a conspiracy theorist or a truther or a 9/11 denier or something like that, to separate you from the rest of the people, so that whatever information that you're trying to give already has some negative stigma attached to it. And I'm gonna call it what it is. It is a warfare tactic. Your privacy is being stolen. Okay, I can't repeat that enough. They're stealing your privacy. They're stealing your information. They're stealing your creative ideas. They're stealing your image. They're stealing your likeness, your livelihood, your demeanor, everything about you. They're stealing it, and they're profiting from it in some way. So we're not gonna. I may not in future videos call it gang stalking, but just for the sake of notoriety, we're calling that for this video, okay? I'm very tired of speaking, so my voice is kind of just like whatever. What exactly is happening to us? Man, excuse me. It'd be nice if if we knew what was happening to us. You know, it'd be nice if we had a definite answer to that question. But from the look of things, people have invaded our lives. They're stealing information from us on a daily basis. They're stealing um, our likeness, our creative ideas on a daily basis. And on top of that, they're trying to agitate us and they're trying to manipulate us. Based off the information we've covered throughout this introduction video, that's where we at now. And that's what we can say is happening to us. People are stealing our lives. People are stealing our information. People are stealing our livelihood. And they're trying to agitate us also in the process. Um, I got a notice that people are looking at my Instagram profile. I get this notice every time I try to record this video. So it makes me think that they think that I'm uploading this to Instagram or something. It's very goofy. But every time I try to record a video, I've also made videos on my phone prior to this just to practice making videos. And every time I've done so, I get this notification. I have this app that notifies me when somebody's looking at my Instagram profile, and I get it every single time. Um, Next, is it warfare being waged on the public? Absolutely, it is. It's a warfare tactic. They've used very similar tactics like this when you study COINTELPRO. They've used this to destabilize governments. I'm reading a book now about the CIA and the psychological warfare they use to destabilize the Nicaraguan government. They use this is very similar to a lot of profiles. I mean, a lot of operations that have been used against people by different agencies. You know, private security agencies use this to gather information and to. It's just a lot of ways this type of protocol has been used, but it definitely falls under warfare. We live in a military society. America is a very militarized nation. We've never stopped fighting wars. You know what I'm saying? So I believe everything that America does is military, has a military connotation to it. It's warfare. That's what I'm trying to say. I believe everything that America does is warfare. And, you know, it's not uncommon for such a militarized nation, a militarized world, pretty much, to use warfare tactics on the common citizen. It's not abnormal. It's very normal and should also be, you know, expected to an extent. How can one overcome this protocol? And I'm going to make a whole video on this as well. But just for the sake of this introduction video, we're just going to run through these. Study, which is what we're doing. Once I started hearing certain information presented to me about this protocol, it kind of took away any anxiety, fear, any any symptom that I had from what they were doing. It immediately was alleviated um, once I started to read about it and hear other people's experiences. Spirituality is another one. It it helps me even outside of this protocol, even before this, man. It's just something that I'm a uh big supporter of. I recommend it for anybody to study some sort of spirituality. It just makes you a stronger person. It makes you a better person, and it helps you understand the world around you way more because we live in a world that is controlled by evil, you know, and you can see that it's apparent every day on a day-to-day basis. You can just watch an episode of your nightly news, whatever city you're in, and you can just see that we live in a world that's controlled by evil. You know, you can look at the types of movies that they make that are profitable. It's a lot of negative images that are profitable. You know, you can listen to hip hop music and see how completely negative a lot of that is, and you can just see that evil is at the forefront of this society, and spirituality is a way to defend against that. It's a way to combat that and counter it to an extent, And I just believe that it'll help anyone. You know, meditation, it falls under the line of spirituality, but meditation is something that really helps stabilize me and keeps me grounded. And I don't do it as much as I used to. Like around 2016, man, I was really into it. And this protocol, you know, this is one of the way that it affected me too. It changed, it helped me change what was most important to me. And I really am only now starting to get back to who I was at that time before it happened. But it's meditation is very good. I recommend it for anybody. And have no fear. You gotta be fearless. You gotta detach yourself from any of the behaviors that they exhibit, any activity that they use against you, man. Detach from it. Don't internalize it. Don't look at everything as, oh man, they're out to get me. Fuck them. Excuse my language. I'm sorry for cursing, but that's how you gotta look at it, man. People are going to be people. This world is controlled by evil. You gotta not expect evil to happen in your life, but don't be surprised by it. If someone is committing an evil act against you, then look at it as something that they're doing that's destroying themselves and not destroying you. Have no fear, man. Be fearless. You're not made to be afraid of other men and women, you know. We're not supposed to be afraid of other people. There's much more out there, you know. There's a higher power that's stronger than anything on this earth. And no man is invincible. I don't care how big, strong they may look. No man on this earth is invincible. This protocol is not invincible. You know, this warfare tactic against you is not invincible in no way. They're not all powerful. They're not all seeing. They're just regular people committing an evil act. Study law. Study the law of the land in your city, state, your country, wherever you live at. Study that law. Learn it. Compare that law to what you're going through. See if there's anything that may help you. And I'm going to be in the process of doing that as well. Keep detailed records, video, and use counter surveillance methods. I just want to thank you for paying attention to me. It's been about 42 minutes at this point. If you've stuck it out, if you listen, I thank you. If you didn't get enough information from this particular video, I'm sorry. To be honest, I've tried to record this one video 6 times, and I'm finally getting it right. I had a lot of issues with recording the video, and it wasn't syncing with the audio and all that types of stuff. So finally got it right, and I'm sorry for stumbling over my words and talking fast, but I was really trying to rush through it. And this is actually just my first video, so I thank you again, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see you soon.